I somewhere have a clip of me doing a 2-mag dump at 4 a.m. and you could only barely see a spark. What's up, guys? Dark Deli here, playing Ghost Recon. Today I'm here with Hollywood, and we have a really interesting, different type of video for you guys. I want to do an interview with someone who's actually, in real life, an armorer, and we want to kind of discuss some of the differences between, well, not differences, but like, the way weapons work in real life versus the way they work in video games. Hollywood, why don't you give your qualifications and exactly what you can bring to us, to these weapons?
Hey guys, Hollywood. So I started working on guns. Probably shouldn't say working on when I was 3. That's when I first learned to shoot. That's when I first learned to start tinkering. My dad was in the Navy and the Army. He was also an armorer once he got out of the Army. Now my official working in a professional environment started when I was 18. I'm 25 now, so 7 years of experience. I've serviced the whole SOCOM weapons suite. I've done courses from most major manufacturers, Glock, Knights, FN, HK. I've serviced, tons and tons and tons of guns from Eastern Bloc to US. Done the NSWC armor course for Crane, the NECC armor course for Crane. There's not much that I've seen, or there's not much that I haven't seen at this point, I feel like, but there's always
room to learn more. Now,
there's always that one strange thing that comes through the door.
All right, so games like Ghost Recon Wildlands, which we're playing right now, and Ghost Recon Breakpoint, and these current games that we love to play, they feature weapons, and let's go ahead and pull it up. Especially like Wildlands and Breakpoint, features the unique gunsmith quality where you can build and put together weapons. I'm showing you a very bad example right now because I have the Lvoa bad news equipped, which you cannot modify, but you guys know what I'm talking about. So what I want to talk to Hollywood here about, since he has so much extensive experience in working with every part of these guns, and trust me guys, he does. We're going to talk about the differences between modifying guns in the game, that being Wildlands and Breakpoint, and modifying them in real life. Let's start off with, I want to start off with my first question. Let's just fire off right out the gate. Now, to be clear, you build weapons for military and
federal law enforcement.
So to be clear, you arm weapons for military personnel and federal law enforcement, and you do know people who, I'm not saying, okay, forgive me if this goes too far. You may or may not be associated with some people who would be considered operators. Am I correct?
Yes.
I'm not trying to interrogate you.
Guys. No, yeah, I do know plenty of guys that people on the internet would call operators.
Is it okay if I say that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
And I do realize I did not answer your question specifically. I talked about what MPI was. It stands for
Magnetic Particle Inspection.
Magnetic Particle Inspection Test. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, because so one of my ARs is it's an AR pistol, and it's an Anderson upper and lower as far as I can tell. I have, and the bolt is only stamped MPI. And when I first saw that, I was like, what the heck does that mean? I was like, well, Hollywood's a good guy to ask. Okay, fair enough. Let's move on because there's a lot of questions I want to ask, like an actual armorer who does help, these guys like me. Like you guys probably know, I'm former military, and we're I was a Marine. I am a Marine. Well, but former. We're not known for being terribly good at knowing how to maintain our weapons, and we depended on guys like Hollywood right here to do this. And so he's the perfect guy to ask these questions. What is your favorite trigger group?
So my favorite trigger group, I'll answer this in twofold. My personal favorite trigger group is one that I've run in a lot of guns. I personally run the, I'm going to pronounce it Geisley. Some people might pronounce it differently. I really don't know what the correct way is, but I like the Geisley SSAE. That's Super Semi-Automatic Enhanced, and it's a 2-stage with a total weight of 3.5 pound pull trigger. Now, that's a little light, especially for new shooters. That's my favorite, but I would say best as far as general guys getting new into shooting. The first trigger they should buy would be the Geissele SSA, which is the super semi-automatic, and that's a two-stage trigger that's 4.5 pounds. So it's a little bit more of a pull, so it's harder to double with, and it's easier to get used to shooting with.
Now, for a lot of the audience and people who may not be as experienced with guns as you are, what my understanding is a lot of LEAs and federal agencies and etc. are this no like I know it sounds like I'm reading a script. I swear I'm not. I guess let me relax my language a little bit. I understand that a lot of these like federal agencies and LEAs, they require, like for instance, you're talking about 3 pound pole. Now, okay, for those of you guys listening, I know a lot of people don't really know guns as well as some people, which is fine. A lot of like mil spec kind of shit is going to have like 5 or 6 pounds, if I'm not mistaken. And my understanding is a lot of these agencies require a higher, heavier pull, and that means that's how many pounds you put in the trigger, have to pull it. And the reason, to my understanding, a lot of these agencies require this is because of safety reasons, because they don't want federal agents accidentally discharging their weapons. How true or not is that?
That's pretty much it. A lot of it is almost like they're trying to bridge the gap between, and it's almost. I think it's a little bit sad the current state of affairs, and it's different on the federal level than it is on the state or local level. A lot of these agencies, I don't think, are necessarily properly allocating training time. So when it comes to them needing to have the assurance that their guys aren't doing anything stupid or doing anything accidentally, it's easier for them to go, let's make sure that this gun has a heavier trigger pull, so it takes your brain that much more time to process what you're doing. It's best said, in Black Hawk Down, I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen that movie, this is my safety, sir. And Hoot, gives his trigger finger. Now, Norm Hooten, the real Delta operator that scene was based off of, in the scene where that was talked about, he says that because the only real safety that is connected from you to the gun is your trigger finger. That's what your brain talks to. So if you have a longer, more difficult trigger pull, your brain has to think about it more when you're doing it. So that means when you're trying to identify friend or foe, when you're trying to get that perfect shot, when you're trying to make sure that you're doing your job correctly and you're not, going to cause a national incident, you have 3 more pounds on a 6.5 pound trigger versus a 3.5 pound trigger to think about that.
Now that's where we come down to, and I almost channeled Grand Thumb there, but I'm going to say it all comes down to training. Haley Strategic Cogworks. Sorry, I'm like channeling Grand Thumb here. And Grand, if you're watching this, props to you, bro. But yeah, a lot of it comes down to training, and it's because a lot of law enforcement, at least to my knowledge, doesn't have the same kind of training, especially under duress, that military does. However, I've known a lot of police officers in my life, and a lot of them have been former military. So a lot of them actually, you can never judge. You never know where someone's history is. A lot of them may well have just as much training as serious. Some of them may be former special ops. I don't know. I've not known that many policemen. You probably know more than I do. One question though, on the trigger thing, for instance, and we were talking about this earlier. You and I, earlier, Hollywood and I had a discussion. For instance, the Sig Sauer P320 has 2 different versions because it's been adopted so heavily by the military, like the Glock 19. It has a military version, which has a safety lever, and a civilian version, which doesn't. Am I correct?
Yeah, so the contracted, I believe the Army's calling it the M17, and the Marine Corps they're calling it like the M18 or the M19. They added that safety just to bridge the gap from where training stops and people are actually pulling the trigger on other human beings. I mean, to put it bluntly, when they're pulling the trigger on a human being, and that safety is ensuring the safety of the person pulling the trigger and the person on the other end.
Okay, and now I don't understand the internals of weapons as well as you do, but it's a striker-fired weapon, which usually by default, which, okay, to my knowledge, a striker-fired weapon was kind of really pioneered by the Glock 17. I may be correct or not on that. And pretty much by default, all striker-fired weapons, to my knowledge, have they have like 2 internal safeties, and of course they have a trigger safety. And to my knowledge, this particular 6-hour does have a trigger safety, but also has the lever. What's your thoughts?
I mean, I've never really seen the need in handguns for the extra safety, and I mean this is coming from me. My first actual handgun was a 1911, so you're talking thumb safety, grip safety.
Mm-hmm. My favorite pistol, by the way, is a 1911, and that's my everyday carry. Hoorah! My everyday carry is a 1911. Go ahead, sir. Sorry.
I'm a big proponent of the "this is my safety, sir," and you know when you were channeling your inner Mike Jones. I would rather, like with my Glock, I run a 17, a Gen 3 17. I would rather my training keep me from having to need that extra safety. So when I'm coming out of holster and I'm presenting my weapon, I'm not making. Yeah, I mean, it's not hard to train to flick a safety off. You do it with your AR, but at the same time, I would rather be able to present that weapon and know what I'm doing, and know that if I'm putting my finger on the trigger, my finger's inside the trigger well, and I'm squeezing that trigger, that I'm doing it for a good reason.
You know, I had a friend. There's some of these questions we discussed earlier, but some stuff we did not. Like for instance, this. I used to have a friend a long time ago. We used to go hunting together a lot. We went hunting together, and he never used the safeties on his rifle. And this was a long time ago. This was very long. Anyway, the point is, he never used his safeties on his rifle, and he basically described it to me as this. The way he described it, this friend of mine. This is how he described it to me. A safety lever is a crutch, and if you depend on it, you may misuse it. If you learn not to use it, if you don't use it, I'm just expressing his opinion. If you never use your safety, then you've friggin' learned. Like you said. Well, not you didn't say, you were quoting. You were quoting someone else, but as you said, your finger. My finger is my safety. And that's how this guy saw it. And that's one thing that really actually helped my awareness of things. Now, that said, like, I have several rifles hanging on my wall. Some of them are unsafe. Some of them are on fire. And that's my code. Like, when I see a rifle and what state it's in, I always know what state my rifles are in. So what I'm saying is, I'm not saying I don't use safeties. I'm saying that when I see a safety on or off, I have my own internal code. For instance, if I have a rifle on fire, that means that it's safe. Okay, that sounds backwards. Okay, wait. Okay, yeah. Give me 2 seconds, Hollywood. Give me 2 more seconds here. Because, and this is not just true with ARs. We're going to be talking largely about ARs here, but also other weapons. This is true with ARs, AKs, and every battle rifle that I've ever had in my hands. You cannot put them on safety unless they're ready to fire, right? Unless they're charged, you can't put them on safety. So that's my internal personal code on my rifle. On my rifle rack on my wall in front of me. Like they're right there. There's an AR that's on fire, which means I know it's not charged, because I can't put it on safe because it's not charged. Right below it, I have an AR pistol, which is currently on safe, which means I know it's charged because I can only put it on safe if it's charged. And thus, I know that AR, all I have to do is flick that lever and pull the trigger. Now, I know it sounded confusing even to me, but that makes sense. Hollywood, give me your thoughts on that, bro.
I mean, even again, to go back to Norm Hooten, that scene in Black Hawk Down where he says, "This is my safety, sir," that stemmed from that exact argument. In real life, on the base in Mogadishu, he was berated by a ranger captain because his weapon was on fire. At the time, the ranger's safety code for being on the base, I believe they call it Phase 3, was that you would have a loaded magazine in the gun, the bolt would be, the hammer would be cocked, the gun would be unsafe, but there would not be a round in the chamber. So if you accidentally flicked it on fire and pulled the trigger, it would just go click.
I think the most important part, and this conversation did seem a bit convoluted and confusing even to me, even though I think the main point here is this. The main takeaway from it is this, and this is everything he said and I said together. Always know what state your weapons are in. Now, this doesn't really apply to the video game. We kind of went off topic here, but I think this is important. Always, the takeaway is know what state your weapon is in. However, you know it. Like, I know it from the direction my safety levers are pointing. But whatever it is, know what state your weapons are in and have your own personal internal code so that you know, because that's very important. Let's move on to the next topic, next question here. Because there's questions I want to ask him, and him as an armorer. What is your how about this? Wait, I'm a little close to you. I feel a little okay. No homo. Let me back up a little bit.
And coronavirus, 6 feet social distancing.
Oh yes, social distancing. Stop making me laugh, dude.
We should probably both put masks on.
We should probably have masks on. Let me put on a schmuck, and I'm just kidding. More important things like actual questions, and you're free to put a schmuck on. But okay, let's talk about weapons, and let's talk more about weapons, individual parts. What are your feelings on like buttstocks? I've seen so many buttstock. Okay, wait. Let me expand that. Because I don't want to confine this to ARs, but ARs, especially here in America, we both live in America. They're kind of a big deal. They're very popular. They're easy to get. I've owned several from $700 all the way to $3,000. ARs. He's Corona proof now. Look at him.
Can't give me the Corona now.
So ARs are just common here, but there's other kinds of. Okay, I wanted to talk about buttstocks. And I didn't want the conversation to strictly be about ARs, but that is kind of what we're addressing, at least for right now. What is your favorite buttstock on an AR?
So my favorite buttstock, I've used a lot of Magpul ones. Used the standard SOT mod, pretty much at least most of the classic ones you see in a lot of military pictures.
Magpul kind of seems to be the go-to for furniture.
Yeah, I always go back to the classic, the OG. For those of you who know, it's a Colt Fiberlight and marked stock. So it is as basic gets. It's this super thin polymer tube with a little paddle on it, super small foot, just a sling loop. It doesn't even have a butt pad or anything on it. It is as minimalist gets as far as the stock is concerned, and I constantly go back to that stock.
Okay. Now, I personally like some storage, although I own 3 AR-15s, and all 3 of them, as it happens, do have minimalist stocks, although I do seek to buy something with some storage on it, which, okay, so here's the thing, and I know we kind of talked about some of this earlier, I didn't mention this to you. I mentioned a particular Magpul stock which has battery compartments on each side. It's a little beefier. Now, some people prefer different cheek welds. And it's not dependent on your size, but I just wanted to put that out there. But I do like, I got a big head, and I like a big cheek weld. And I like the feel of that particular stock, though all mine are minimalist. Now, those compartments are meant for batteries, but you can use them to store snakes, Allen wrenches, brushes, all kinds of things that could be used to maintain your rifle in the field, right? I mean, like...
Yeah, I mean, and it comes down to what your intended use for the rifle is. Like, I know you're a survivalist type mentality. It's definitely a valid point in having storage on the gun. For someone like me, I like to be prepared, but we don't prepare for the exact same scenarios. So I like to keep mine minimal. And as far as like the size and shape of the stock, I like stocks with a really small foot, a really short foot, because I'm a smaller dude, and it makes it really easy to get it in the pocket of your shoulder, especially when you're wearing body armor. And as far as cheek weld goes, like the classic SOT mods or anything with the battery storage on the sides, they give you a great cheek weld if you like cheek weld. I don't. I'm one of the new school guys. I like the high mounted optics where you're just kind of getting the side of your chin on the stock anyway. So having that extra bulk there really doesn't do anything for me in the first place, so I'd rather shave the weight, keep it small.
Okay. I mean, like I said, all 3 of my ARs, I have minimalist stocks. My ARs, I have a 22 caliber, which I have for survival / hunting, so it's mounted with basic just, no magnification, red dot optic, basic bipod for hunting varmints. It's my Varmint Rifle. It has a minimal stock. And then I have a AR pistol, super minimalist pistol brace, folded in, velcroed over, and what have you. And then the other one is also, yeah, same as my 22. It's same stock, same exact stock. It's a Magpul stock. It's the minimalist stock. It just has it has like, 6 or whatever positions and one lever to control, and like a couple sling positions, and that's it. And even though I expressed the idea of liking the extra storage, as it happens, all 3 of mine are the absolute minimum stock. I think it's best to have more weight. To be honest, I don't know. Maybe you can answer me this. I think it's best to have more weight on the front of the rifle than the back, and maybe that's why. What do you think?
I don't know if I would really have an opinion on where it's best to have weight. I mean, obviously you want to have a balanced rifle. For me, pretty much all of my guns tend to be front and heavy because I'm light, laser, suppressor, and that tends to always make guns front heavy. A heavier stock, I suppose, would balance my gun out a little bit more, but for me, I'd rather keep it because I have that weight on the front and plus weight from optics and ammo. I'd rather try to save the weight in the back end where I could. And, typically you're loading the gun against your shoulder anyway, so that weight on the back end really isn't going to do a whole lot for you, in my opinion. I definitely wouldn't want to add more weight to the front of my gun. I feel like I'm getting enough of a shoulder workout as it is half the time running around the range or doing classes, but
Well,
I definitely don't think that adding weight to the back of the gun to balance a front heavy gun would be a good idea.
one reason I say that is actually because, this video is an interview video, obviously. A previous interview I did was with a special operations soldier who also worked for various contracting companies, and I think I've said I don't want to say what I'm not supposed to say about him, but trust me, I knew the guy for a long time, and he's been in a lot of places. He served for. I'm sorry. I'm speaking about someone else, so I'm trying to use respect and use the correct terms. A friend of mine who I previously interviewed served 18 years in the UK infantry, which means, of course, he used the SA-80 rifle. Now, I know that certain whatever from Britain use the Canadian version of the M4, but he mostly used the SA-80. And I mentioned that because we were just talking about weight distribution. The SA-80, which is in this game known as the L85 in this game, so it does apply to the game. He hated the thing, and he told me, and if you watch I'll have a link to the video below, interview with a real recon soldier, because he was a reconnaissance guy. He was a recce guy, or reconnaissance guy. What? Okay, right. So he hated, and he expressed in the video, he said he fucking hated the SA-80. What are your thoughts on that weapons platform, Hollywood?
So I'm not a big fan of bullpups in general. For those of you who aren't familiar, a bullpup is where the magazine feeds into the gun behind the fire control group and trigger mech. There are pros and cons to both. Some of the pros that a lot of people like to argue with bullpups is that it makes it easier to fire it one-handed. So if you have to drag a buddy or do a task with your other hand, and that's true because a lot of the weight in the gun is behind your firing hand. It's in your shoulder because that's where all of the moving parts are. That's where the magazine is. But at the same time, specifically on the SA-80, L85 family of guns, they were very heavy. I mean, they were overly heavy.
Yeah,
They
and that's
also
what he said. He said it was
most
really
inherently
fucking heavy.
accurate.
The other thing he said, and I will quote him, and I love this quote. The other thing he said is, okay, a lot of weapons nowadays, like certain HK weapons, also FN weapons, they have, just off the top of my head, they have charging handles that can be swapped to either side, or like for instance, the H&K G36, which is actually in this game, has a charging handle which you can pull from either side. It's not that it's interchangeable. You can literally pull it from either side. And then you got weapons like the Scar, where you can easily remove it, put it on the other side. If I'm not mistaken? I'm not mistaken, right? You can pull it and you can remove it, put it on the other side, and use it, right?
Yeah, you can swap what side the charging handle is on.
Okay, and also I think Desert Tech also does that with like their MDR and shit like that, if I'm not mistaken. Wait, or I may be. I'm not a weapons expert.
That I'm not entirely sure on. I've never worked on the Desert Tech guns.
Okay, but where I was going with that is one thing that he said about the SA-80 that he hated, and because in a lot of operations, well, not operations, because I never look, guys. Look, I said I'm a former Marine. That's true, but I never did any special crap. I did a lot of training, but no, I never did any special crap. I just want to put that out there. I never claim like people have said stolen valor or whatever. No, I've never claimed to do anything, but I've done a lot of training, and one thing that I've learned is a lot of times you have to fire from awkward positions, and that's why we train a lot of times firing ambidextrously. And that's because, like, for instance, let's say you're firing through left-hand cover, or you're on your right-hand side and you're on the ground. Now, that doesn't matter with an AR. Why would I mention that? Because some rifles have reciprocating bolts or reciprocating charging handles. Sorry, I spoke incorrectly. Some rifles have reciprocating charging handles, like for instance the SA-80, and this is specifically what this one particular person mentioned. There's certain situations where you can't unfuck it, as we would say in the Marine Corps. You can't unfuck it. It's stuck there, and you got a reciprocating bolt on the right hand side of your rifle. So if you have to take left hand cover, or if you have to lay on your right hand side, the thing is digging into the dirt. And I will quote him when he said, well, not exactly quote, but he said, if you have to fire it off your left hand shoulder, that charging handle, or as he called it, because he was British, they call it a cocking handle. He said it'll smash you in the fucking teeth. What's your thoughts on reciprocating charging handles? Just totally off the cuff.
I'm not a big fan. Now it is not like the AK does it. The
Yeah, it's not
SA-80
as
does
big a
it.
deal because newer weapons, yeah, like I said, have someone interchangeable, or like the HK has, you could just choose either side and pull it. Yeah.
Yeah, if it's something that you can pull from either side, or you can change what side it's on, it's a little bit better. And on things like the Scar, the factory ones aren't real big and protruding. You wouldn't really have to worry about it hitting you in the face. But I definitely would prefer my weapons to not have a reciprocating charging handle.
The way that he said that, the way he said it'll, like the emphasis with which he said it, it'll smash you in the fucking teeth. And this coming from, I'm not going to give him, I'm not going to say, I'm only going to say his qualifications that he said, which is that he was a recon soldier in the UK Army, and I'll leave it there. Our private conversations are between us, but the point is, he has a lot of experience with the SA-80, aka also known in Ghost Recon as the L85. It's the same weapon, by the way. The L85 is just it's a version of the SA-80. There's only two military forces, to my knowledge, in the world that uses it. Oddly, it's the UK and Jamaica, and at least due to my wiki searches, I started playing Ghost Recon Wildlands, but Ghost Recon Wildlands, this game that we're looking at right now, is actually what got me interested in weapons. Even though I was prior to this, I was in the military. Weapons were just, I don't know. It was, wow. Actually, shit. Now I'm like interviewing myself. It was just I don't want to say a thing, but it was. We took it to the shitter with us. We went to sleep with it. We lived with it. We breathed with it. It was just part of life. Playing Wildlands is actually what got me interested in learning like how they work, and Hollywood's been a big part of that because he's an actual armorer. Okay, so let's move to the next question because I strayed on that too long. What about like, okay, here's some things you can't change in Wildlands, which I don't think you would want to change. This is a pretty quick and obvious question. What is your idea of the best barrel twist rate?
So barrel twist rate, if we're just talking 5.56, I would say 1 in 7. That's the mill standard. That's what like your M4A1 comes as. And 1 and 7 is a good fast twist. It'll get you heavy grain bullets, so you're good up to 80 grains. Like I personally run 1 and 7s in all my guns, and I'm usually shooting between 69 and 77 grain ammo. You can't really go wrong with it. Some guys like a faster twist. You know, some barrel companies are still pretty readily producing 1 and 8s and 1 and 9s, but I would go 1 and 7 all day. So twist rate is 1 and 7. In a 1 to 7 barrel, in 7 inches of barrel, the bullet will make 1 revolution.
For instance, like I have a higher twist rate, or I don't know what's considered higher or lower, but I have a different twist rate, for instance, on my, I guess you call it, I call it my survival rifle. I guess you call it a varmint rifle. Now, some of these varmint rifles, and I'm talking AR-15s or the 22 caliber Ruger. What's it called? The famous one.
Ruger 1022.
Yeah, the 1022. A lot of those come in really high twist rates, as much as 1 at 12. And they're meant to fire really lightweight 22 caliber bullets, and they're great at killing varmints. That's why they're called varmint rifles. They're also great survival rifles. But when it comes to military use, military rifles, to my knowledge, are by spec basically are 1 to 7. Is that not correct?
Yeah. Like I said, like the M4s, the CQBRs, they all come 1 to 7, and so twist rate, a fast twist rate is like 1 to 7 is faster than 1 to 9, and all it means.
Oh, really?
Is,
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what the twists do is it's how long it will take the barrel to stabilize that bullet. So you can stabilize a heavier bullet faster. So that's why in a 1 to 7 you can shoot up to 80 grains. In a 1 to 9 you wouldn't want to shoot a bullet that heavy. It's meant to shoot lighter bullets, but because that bullet is lighter, it takes more revolutions inside the barrel so that when it leaves, it's going to have a stable flight path.
I got you. Yeah, like my survival rifle, as I call it, it's a 22 caliber Smith & Wesson. I forget exactly what it's called, but it's the Smith & Wesson, crap, I forget. And honestly, wow, I feel embarrassed now, but I've painted most of my rifles because it's painted over the model number. But you guys know what I'm talking about. The Smith & Wesson sport shooting AR, and mine's 22 caliber, and it's 1.9 twist rate. And as far as I'm concerned, it's perfectly suitable for if I had to survive hunting rabbits, squirrels, things like that. Not that, I mean, you could take bigger ammo, but I wouldn't recommend it. My serious, like self-defense AR, like my home defense weapon. Well, actually, my home defense weapon's a 1911. Hoorah. Yeah, my home defense weapon's actually a 1911. But if I had to pick up a rifle, it'd be, my AR pistol, which is some pretty serious business. And because it's a 1 to 7 twist rate, it fires more effectively heavier ammo. I guess that's correct.
Yeah, I mean, like the original M16s, like I've got an A1 that just kind of hangs on the wall and collects dust. I believe it's a 1 and 12, and they were shooting, in Vietnam, it was all 55, maybe even lighter for some of the original ammo. So that 1 and 12, those lighter bullets, it was only making a revolution every 12 inches because it's a lighter bullet.
Gotcha. All right, so let's move on. One of my rifles has, and I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with this. This is something that's not in the game, but we're talking about like internal rifle mechanics. Now, Hollywood is an actual armorer. Myself, I'm a mechanic. Different trades, but we both know how to use tools. So we're both fascinated, obviously, by mechanical things because he spends his life working on mechanical things. And I have spent a large part of my life working mechanical things just a little bit differently. So one thing that I've been curious about, because one of my rifles has this, and it's made by Magpul. And what it is, it goes on an AR-15, and it's a bolt catch, which also circles around. If maybe you could describe it better, it circles around through the trigger guard, comes up the other side, basically making it an ambidextrous bolt catch, meaning you can slap it with your left palm, that's what I've always done. Like I'm one of those guys like, well, okay, so I was in the Marines in the 90s. We did the thing, you tap the magazine on your head, you slap it in, you slap it, you bang the bolt catch. So, I mean, like that, I come from that school of thought. Now, with this, because this particular Magpul bolt catch hooks around and comes under the trigger guard, it allows you to insert a mag and instantly hit it with your trigger finger and close the bolt without removing your hands from your aiming position. Just okay, Hollywood, what's your thoughts on that whole thing?
So the bad lever, and that's not a slight at it, it's battery assist device. I know a lot of guys like them. Lucas at T-Rex Arms has talked about it in a little bit of his videos, how it shortens reloads and things like that. It's never a part I've tinkered with. As far as I'm aware, the military actually banned the use of them because they were having some issues where, now, don't exactly quote me, but I believe it was short-barreled weapons with suppressors were having issues reliably locking the bolt to the rear on empty all the time with the bad lever installed, and Magpul may have remedied that issue, but I don't think they have become unbanned. And it's things like that when they come up, and again, it's also a training thing. I'm probably not a fast enough shooter, even with the amount of time I spend shooting guns, that it would really benefit me that much to run one. I'd rather just keep working my reloads, rip the old mag out, put a new mag in, push the bolt release with my thumb, and get my grip back.
You know what I would love right now is if, I didn't mean, well, I don't want to interrupt you, but I would love, and this I've never seen because everyone knows I'm a big fan of the YouTuber Grand Thumb. I would love, because I've never seen him weigh in on this particular subject. I've seen every one of his videos. I've never seen him use this particular bolt catch. I would love to see him weigh on this. I would assume his answer would be no, because I've only ever seen him use, standard left-handed ones. The trigger finger is handy, but I will say, as a person, I own an AR that has a bad lever, and as he calls it, I've never heard it called that until just now, but I have one that has one, and I will say, locking the bolt back, you have to hold it in a certain way to do it. At least on mine. All I know is mine has a bad lever, and you have to hold it in a certain way. Now, it doesn't make it easier to release it. It makes it a quicker reload. I can slam in a mag, and with the flick of my trigger finger, I can return the bolt. But to lock the bolt back, like if I want to put it on safe or take it apart, fucking whatever, hand it to someone, make sure it's clear, there's a certain way you have to hold it, at least with mine. I do wish Grand Thumb was here to weigh in on this, because I'm sure he have an opinion. Okay, so sorry guys, cigarette. I was smoking a cigarette there. I'm changing subjects here, but I'm trying to keep with stuff that's in wildlands, but also, more importantly, I think what we're doing is we're talking about real world weapons, and I think this is interesting to Ghost Recon because it's intricacies Ghost Recon could put in the game to make it a little bit more realistic, because though we're in wildlands right now, Breakpoint really did nothing. In fact, in my opinion, Breakpoint went backwards on weapon customization, because they put all the weapon ammo calibers into like subcategories, and actually brought it backwards. No one's going to disagree with that, so I'm not even going to ask. My next question is, let's talk about handguards. Let's see, what am I using right here? I'm using the Lvoa Bad News, which, okay, this is a bad choice, no pun intended, because it has a very unique handguard. So let me put that back away. As far as handguards go, as far as I know, the most popular is M-Lock. That's probably what you're going to say. I know a lot of people like the whole quad reel thing. And why don't you explain to people what they are? Because remember, a lot of people watching this video play wildlands, but aren't able to or don't own, weapons in real life.
Well, so obviously we started with smooth. We started with aluminum handguards, then moved to plastic. There was wood in there, for some guns. But then when we finally, started using Picatinny rail with the original like clip-on clamshell style rails, and then we moved to free float.
To be clear, what Picatinny is let me see if I can get a picture of it. what you see on the top of my rail right there, and the top of his rail right there. And pretty much every handguard, every weapon, at least every weapon I've ever owned, and I'm sure he's going to agree. It's called, if I'm not mistaken, Picatinny 1918. I mean, but people just call it 1913. But people just call it Pic or Picatinny or whatever. It's right there. You can see it really well on top of my rifle. It's a standard mounting system on the top of the rifle. But to my understanding, general consensus is it's not the best for the side and the bottom because you don't want to grab onto those sharp metal edges, right?
So when it was first developed, it seemed like a great idea at the time to just give people rail everywhere. You know, it was all put everything on your gun, put things wherever you want it. And we very quickly realized that everyone kind of put everything in the same places. So we started working on, you know, companies like with the rail you have there, started working on proprietary mounting systems to mount accessories where you could buy individual rail sections that would basically bolt onto the rail. So you only had to put rail where you wanted it because, one, it saves weight. You get rid of all that extra metal. Two, it saves your hands. You know, they call Picatinny rails cheese graters for a reason because there's all that metal with all those rigid machined or cast edges that cut your hands up or fuck up your gloves. So then from moving on those proprietary systems, we moved to Keymod and M-Lock, which were the two big contenders for the military. Now, they chose M-Lock specifically because Keymod failed the testing and evaluation in cold weather, where when the accessories would get really, really cold, and I'm sure it was probably sub-zero temperatures realistically, where most civilians won't be using their stuff, the Keymod accessories could actually snap off, where the M-Lock won't do that. It's a little bit stronger.
Exactly.
But what that allows you to do is... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I want to clarify for some of our viewers who may be less experienced with weapons. M-Lock is straight, just rectangular oval. It's like a soft edge. It's just straight slots. And just to be clear for our viewers, some of which may not know, an M-Lock is a rounded off rectangle, and the things basically, we'll just say for basics, they screw in there, where that's M-Lock, as opposed to Keymod, which has a big circular hole at the front and then the rectangular part behind it. And I think what you're saying is that some stuff may be able to slide forward and then fall out of that round part in front. Am I right? I think maybe.
Well, you could actually snap the studs off if they got cold enough.
Oh, no shit. Okay. Stuff I didn't know. Now, all my rifles have Keymod. Or, sorry. Oh my god. I'm going to edit that out. No, I'm not. I'm going to leave that in because it's funny. All my rifles have M-Lock. The reason I mentioned the uniqueness of what I'm holding right here, which just happens to be what I used in my last video, is the LVOEC. And this is a very unique weapon. Very unique in a lot of ways. One way is in which the handguard completely, to my knowledge, and I could be wrong. Hey, maybe we didn't talk about this. So there's a company, War Sports Industries, and they make this weapon called the Lvoa. Now it appears, as I'm showing right now, in Ghost Recon Wildlands and Ghost Recon Breakpoint. And one unique thing about it is the handguard goes completely over the muzzle device, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it encompasses the muzzle device at the end.
And they have a unique... Now, a lot of people started doing this as, like, Gucci, like, fashion, like, you know, guys who go to heavy metal shows and have lots of tattoos, people who have fancy cars and put chrome rims. People started putting bungee cords on their handguards. And this is actually a question which we did not rehearse earlier. Oops, surprise! The LVOAC is known for, as you can see right here, it's red bungee cords that are threaded through the handguard. People started doing it for show, that's what I was referencing earlier, like people who have lots of tattoos or fancy cars or whatever. People started doing it for show. My understanding is that War Sports Industries actually puts those bungee cords there for a reason, but I'm not sure. Is there any science behind that?
I honestly couldn't tell you. I've only ever seen a couple of the LVOAs. I'm sure they probably mark it as a reason. The only thing I could really think about would maybe be like wire management for lasers or lights.
They actually say, I mean, from what I read on their website, because I was curious as hell, because it looks cool. It looks cool as hell. And I'm not gonna lie, I wind shoelaces or well, I have a shoelace wound through one. My other ARs, I have paracord, and it does look cool. Like, I have one of my ARs with paracord winded through the handguard where I don't have attachments. One reason is because, actually, in that case, it's useful. That's about, from a survivalist point of view, that's about 10 or so feet. Yeah, unwinded. I mean, on a regular length AR-15, it's about 10 or so feet of paracord that you could use for survival or anything else like that. Now, if I recall correctly, what War Sports says about the LVOA, it's something to do with recoil, and I don't see how that could assist that, but that's what they say on their website. If you go to warsportindustries.com, and I'm not knocking their rifle, trust me, dude, if I had $3,300, I'd be all over the LVOA, but I don't have that kind of cash. What I'm holding right now is an expensive fucking rifle in real life. Forget the M203 and the PEC 15 and the EOTech EXPS. Forget all that. Just the rifle itself is out of my price range. Right. So, okay, let's move on. Okay, so moving on. What's your, what about forward grips? Now, that's a big thing. And before I let you answer, I'm so sorry, sir. When I was in the Marines in the late 90s, obviously, we didn't have attachments. We didn't have forward grips. Nowadays, forward grips are all the rage. Vertical, angled. Some people grip the magazine well. Now, personally, and I also want to know your opinion on this, I'm against gripping the magazine well, and the reason is because it could cause a failure to feed. Pressure put backwards in the magazine could cause a failure to feed. So what's your opinion on all that shit that I just said?
Now, I have heard that putting pressure on the magazine can cause that. Obviously, when you grip the mag well, you really shouldn't be gripping the magazine. You should just be gripping the mag well to reduce the chance of that happening. Now, that's more of an old school thing. Today, you don't really see guys doing that, and a lot of that is also brought about by the shit we're running on guns now. Even with a short barrel, you throw a light, a laser, and a can on the end of that. That's a lot of weight to have forward of your hand if you have it on the mag well. As far as grips go, I've done the angle grip trend, I've done the backwards canted stubbies, I've done the full size. I tend to always just go back to running, like right now I've got a Magpul Mo vertical grip. It attaches with their proprietary MOE system. I just have it bolted onto my Picatinny or onto my M-Lock rail, and I have it cut in half. And I just use it as a hand stop because typically I thumb over bore and just kind of wrap my hand around the rail and that little bit of a grip.
Oh my god, dude! Like I did not know you were gonna say that, and I was gonna say yes, like to the umpteenth degree. So, okay, for the record, Hollywood here, he and we have a relationship, and he has sent me various rifle parts. One of which including a vertical grip. I mean, I just mentioned that because we're talking about grips, and the grip he sent me is a Tango Down vertical grip. It's short and stubby, and as far as, I mean, there could be stubbier. I mean, well, yeah, there's many that are shorter and stubbier. What I was just going to say is that because I was trained traditionally using a rifle back in the day, there were no rails. There was no attachments because there were no rails. We had the traditional M6. I was trained with the M16A2, and we held it like you hold a hunting rifle. You know what I mean? And so the first grip I gravitated towards were stubby vertical grips because I used them as hand stops just to keep my hand from sliding back too far. It's exactly what you were talking about. Now, that said, as things have evolved and moved on, I moved on towards angled grips, personally, because you can hold them angled, and some of them, like for instance, one of my favorites, and this is a shout out to Haley Strategic, though they are no sponsor or even know who I am, but Haley Strategic makes at least Travis Haley designed the BCM KAG, stands for Kinetic Angled Grip. He designed that. That's one of my very favorites because it's an angled grip. You could also use it as a vertical. I mean, you can. I can get two of my fingers around it and hold it vertically, or use it as an angled. I just wanted to give a shout out, even though, like I said, I'm not sponsored, or he doesn't even know who the fuck I am. Then there's another consideration, and this will ask Hollywood's opinion on. Then nowadays we're talking about, because when I was in the Marine Corps, our rifles had 20-inch barrels. That's not the case anymore. So there's another consideration. For instance, on one of my ARs, my AR pistol, I forget what the heck the name of the forward grip on it is, but it's made by Strike Industries, and it's got a hand stop in front of it. And now, as far as that goes, that also goes with, like, for instance, the MP5. For instance, it has a hand stop in front, not in back, to keep your hand sliding forward instead of back. Hollywood, why don't you talk about that? I'm sure you have something to say about that.
Yeah, a lot of those design grips have come. I always think exclusively of the MP5, especially the MP5K, because there was just so little space to put your hand. Guys were losing the front of the gun, and then they were blowing their fingers off. So it's to keep you from getting your hand in front of the muzzle. Now, you have to have a pretty short barrel on an AR really to do that, unless you are the clumsiest bastard on the face of the planet.
That's because ARs usually have muzzle devices. Yeah, my AR pistol has a really short barrel, but it's got a long ass muzzle device. Yeah, you'd have to be mentally handicapped to, no offense. Oh shit, I think I just offended someone. Yeah, you'd have to be mentally retarded to actually slip your finger in front of it, because it has about a 2-inch 3-prong muzzle device. But, I didn't tell you this before, Hollywood. I don't think I ever told you this. My guy who taught my concealed carry weapon class, who I told you was a former detective, I think he was also former military, and he told me a story about, I'll keep it brief, keep it short, a Navy SEAL, a Navy friggin' SEAL, hey, shit happens, dude, who accidentally shot off one of his fingers in like a MOUT training course, like one of those close quarters training. We call it MOUT. If you guys don't know what MOUT is, it's Military Operations in Urban Terrain. At least that's what we called it back in the 90s. I don't know what the fuck it's called now. We called it MOUT. Anyway, MOUT training course, and a Navy SEAL actually shot off his own finger. What I'm saying is, it can happen to the best of us. That's what I'm saying, is it can happen to the best of us, and that's why hand stops, both forward and backward, exist. Forward, yep. Any thoughts on that before we move on? I think...
I actually did have a thought I wanted to touch on, just taking it back to the video games about grips. One of the things that really irritates me about, more about breakpoint, because I don't think the grips in wildlands do it. I will actually look and check, but I know a lot of them in breakpoint, the vertical grips slow down your reload time. And I can tell you, for the hundreds of thousands of rounds that I have put through ARs,
they decrease your handling.
Slow down your reload time.
They decrease your handling, which for some reason in wildlands, and by the way, developers, if you're listening to this, yes, for some reason, vertical grips in wildlands, and I can tell you this from hundreds of videos of rifle testing, they reduce your handling, and that does in turn reduce your reload time. It does. Yes.
Yeah, I can tell you firsthand, putting a vertical grip on your AR does not slow down your reload time at all.
No, and in Wildland, or in Ghost Recon's defense, Ghost Recon has done a lot to reach out to the military community and try to, and that's what we're doing here, trying to make things better. Like, for instance, in Breakpoint, they actually have, I forget his name, dude. I'm so sorry. Like, I actually met the guy, and I'm so sorry. I don't remember your name, bro. They actually had a Green Beret who was the, I forget his title and the game development, but he was one of the main guys who helped write the game, and they basically referred to him in everything. And trust me, dude, this guy was badass. He's one of those guys you look at and you avert your eyes because he's too badass to withstand.
Emile Debon.
Is that his name? I remember it sounded kind of French, but he's totally no offense, dude. Oh my God, I feel like so embarrassed now because I've actually been face to face with him when I was down in San Francisco at the Ubisoft thing. Oh my God, I feel so bad now. Because the reason I say that is because I remember his name sounded like French, but he's not. He's straight up American. Anyway, he's a Green Beret, and I didn't talk to him personally, though I was maybe 6 feet away from him. I didn't talk to him because he's like one of the main guys behind Ghost Recon Breakpoint, though, and he helped design it, and he's a Green Beret. I think what they did with breakpoint, I think one problem my opinion, they made too much too realistic. And you got to remember, video games are video games. We play video games for leisure, not necessary for realism, which is really weird because it's kind of what we're talking about here. But I think they made a few missteps with breakpoint. I'm not blaming him by any means, even though I mentioned his name, dude. Again, I see, I can't remember his name, dude, but no,
Emil.
Emil. I totally respect the dude. Dude, the guy was a badass. Is the kind of guy, like I said, you look at him and you avert your eyes. Anyway, let's. Holy shit!
Yeah, I feel like the developers would have done themselves and us more of a favor if they had made things like grips not have stats, just made them cosmetic for us.
Yeah. One thing I got to say is that even though they may not have necessarily gotten all the mechanics right, and maybe there's a reason for that, but all these parts are actually really parts. For instance, shit, that fucking, what's it called? That Strike Industries grip that I have on my AR is actually a grip and breakpoint, and I forget what it's called. I forget the name, because it's not like, okay, I know a lot of you guys don't have rifles, so maybe you don't know, maybe not. It's not like they have the names printed on them. I mean, some do. Like a Magpul MOE says MOE on it. Definitely has the brand name stamped on it with the M. But a lot of parts, most parts actually, have at best forge markings, and a lot of the polymer ones don't at all. For instance, I have a Strike Industries forward grip on one of my ARs, which I love, and which is in breakpoint. I just forget the name of because it's not printed on the thing. It's not like a car where it says Nissan Versa. You know, it's not like that. It doesn't advertise. It's just a grip. You know what I mean, Hollywood?
Yeah, I mean there's not really it costs the company more money than it's worth to imprint things like that into plastic grips and things.
My experiences, most don't. Magpul definitely does. Magpul puts their... Hey, nothing against Magpul. I mean, like, I see their furniture on most... everything. And they have that M stamped on everything. And on... well, we'll get to pistol grips. My favorite pistol grip is the MOE 2. It's on all of my ARs. And...
I mean, they've got the Magpul... They've got the Magpul vertical grip in both games. They just added the CTR stock to breakpoint. You can customize your stocks now.
You know, something I heard, let me go to my loadout here. Something I heard, and I'm actually not sure about this, is, hang on, let me go down to, oh my God, I forgot how to play this game. Hang on, I hit the wrong button there. I'm sorry, guys. I'm actually hitting the wrong buttons, and there we go. Someone told, I'm trying to find the parts. It's been so long, dude. Guys, really? Underbarrel foregrip. I think it's this one right here, the foregrip V2. If you're looking at your pause menu, someone told me this is actually not a foregrip, but it's a monopod. Am I wrong on that or not? Someone told me that in one of my YouTube comments.
It's a monopod from Magpul PRS stock. I believe it's made by AccuShot.
All right, so Ubisoft, next time you make a game, well, do a little bit more fact checking because that's right. Okay, so that's confirmed. Yeah, a YouTube commenter told me this is actually a monopod and not. How about that? So whoever commented that comment, like it was like 3 years ago. Thanks for that comment. Right. So let's move on. What about okay, what's your feel? A lot of people like a lot of gadgets and shit on their rifle, or they think it looks cool. Like people build these fucking rifles like Lego. People can call them, adult Barbie dolls or Legos, because you can just staple everything you want to on these things, and that is true. What do you feel are the most essential parts? I mean, what's the shit you actually like? Right here, you see my Lvoa I got a PIC 15 on the side. EXPS and G33 on the top and an M203 on the bottom. Well, how much shit do you actually put on a rifle rail? Like real world, let's get back to the thing. You are an armorer who works in some capacity with people who work for the government. What do they actually put on their rifles?
Well, like for me personally, and a lot of the guys that we get guns for, guns I work on, it's usually the same. It's light laser suppressor. Now, uh, guys that buy lasers for their guns, if you don't own night vision, you're putting the cart before the horse. You're
Okay,
spending $2,000-$3,000
so,
on a
yeah,
cap
so
point.
there's that. I'm sorry. I'm going to interrupt you for a second so I can bring that to light. Like right here, you can see. Hang on, I'm trying to swivel my camera. Okay, so I got a PEC 15 mounted on the side of my rifle. This thing, if I'm not mistaken, this thing is useless without night vision goggles. There's no point in having this. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, I mean there is a visible laser in most infrared lasers, but it's not made for daytime use in the sense of clearing buildings and using the laser. The visible laser in IR laser and illuminator packages is just there because what a lot of guys don't realize is you actually zero that laser. You adjust the windage and the elevation and you zero it. So that visible laser is there so you can zero it in the daytime. So you don't have to do it in the dark or at night with your night vision down. So it's just there to make your life easier. It's like a quality of life addition to the
Okay.
illuminator and laser combo.
Okay. Now, and to be clear, also, one other thing, as long as we're on that topic, one other thing I wanted to, as far as I know. So in Wildlands, and, well, we'll just say Ghost Recon. In Ghost Recon and many other games, you can select whatever kind of headgear you want. For instance, here I'm wearing baseball cap and sunglasses. You see, right here, you see Hollywood wearing what in real life, if I'm not mistaken, that's about a $40,000 set of night vision goggles. Am I not mistaken?
Yeah, it's somewhere between 35 and 45,000. I forget what L3 has them priced at right now.
Yeah, so take that into consideration, and this goes like into your character builds and things like that. Think about that, like, or if you want to or not, think about real like when you do like mil sims or whatever. Well, fuck, I don't know, but in real life, like, okay, like civilian wise, no civilian can actually afford that. Well, no one I know. If you can, then hey, send me some money. PayPal me some money if you can, because I don't know anyone who can actually afford nogs like that, or at all, to be honest, except like shit from the 80s, and still you're talking a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, I have two sets of dual tubes and a single tube and a clip on. And I mean,
Jesus
me
Christ.
getting,
You have a lot of
that's
shit. You
me
guys
getting
should
it.
see Hollywood. Okay, I've known Hollywood well, I don't know, a year or two, a couple
Yeah,
years.
it's
We'll
a few
say two
years ago.
years. I've seen his armory, and guys, you would be jealous. Yeah, so he has a lot of shit. You guys, that I'm jealous of. I'm jelly as hell. I'm peanut butter and jelly.
But I mean, having two sets of dual tubes, a single and a clip-on, that's getting industry discounts because of who we work with.
Mm-hmm.
That's years of saving, making sure that I had money for my family, for my house, pay for my car, and now I have a kid, things like that. It's not
Yeah.
me going out and using mommy and daddy's credit card. It's
No,
hard work and
no,
dedication.
that's true, and something we should have mentioned. Hollywood. Yeah, he's an adult. He has a family. He's a working class guy who has a family and everything, and he's good enough to be here with us and give us all this inside info and weapons. So let's keep moving down the list. What about why don't we discuss muzzle devices? This is something you can select in Ghost Recon games. And one thing I've seen, and I'm being really bad with my buttons tonight. Let's see if I can find. Gosh, this is how bad I am with my. I have not played this game in a little while, and that's strictly my fault. Let's scroll down to. Oh, here we go. AK-47, and let's have a look at it. The reason I'm mentioning this, he already knows why. Let's look at the muzzle device. Okay, that's not right. So let's put a compensator on it. Oh, wait, that is a V2. Wait. Wait, what? I'm not getting a correct AK. Oh my god. Okay, this just blew up my spot, guys. This was unexpected. Ghost Recon Wildlands, at least we're in Wildlands right now because we are. They don't have the correct AK-47 muzzle device. Wow, they don't. The reason I was going to say that before you speak, Hollywood, is because I have actually heard some people say, let me just back out of here. I've actually heard some people say it's crooked because it looks crooked. And what I guess the best way to describe it is it looks like an ice cream cone, kind of, only it's crooked on one side. Why is that?
Also, it's tapered to direct the gas in a certain direction to help mitigate recoil. Or
Yeah.
I shouldn't necessarily recoil, muzzle climb.
There you go. The reason I say that is because, well, I knew what you were going to say. Well, I knew kind of what you were going to say, because I've literally heard people say that their muzzle device is mounted crooked, and it's not mounted crooked. And I'm sorry I couldn't show you guys. They don't have the proper AK muzzle device in this game. It's not there. It's slightly open on the right hand side, and the reason is it puts just slightly more gas off to the right hand side to counteract the reciprocation of the charging handle on the bolt, which, as you can see on an AK, is right here on the right hand side. It puts a little more gas off to the right to push the rifle back to the left just a little bit, ever so slightly. This weapon was okay. Well, the AK-47. I know we're both Americans, both air guys, but let's face it, the AK-47 is one of the best and most refined weapons of all time. Mikhail Kalashnikov made over 100 versions of this weapons. He made over 100 versions of this weapon, trying to get it right up until his death. And so what I'm saying is there's no mistakes in this weapon. I mean, there's things that could be maybe better to personal taste, but what I'm saying is the reason, if you have an AK-47 with a traditional muzzle device, the reason it's tilted off the way it is, it's by design. It's not by accident. Now, my personal favorite muzzle device, okay, so I've got two ARs with a just your standard birdcage flash hider. Why don't you describe what that is?
Well, so a traditional birdcage, like the OG birdcage, is picture a drum, like a perfect cylinder, and then it has oval slots, evenly spaced, cut all the way around it. And what that does is it allows the gas to escape around the whole muzzle device every direction, and it hides the muzzle flash. Now, modern, what people call bird cages, they're usually solid on the bottom. That way it vents the gas upward, but it still eliminates muzzle flash. It just, by closing that off on the bottom and pushing all the gas up, it helps push that muzzle down.
Also, well, that is true. From my knowledge, my knowledge is pretty rudimentary. My knowledge is, yes, that's true. But as far as I think there might be a secondary reason. Hang on, let me light this cigarette. I'm smoking while Hollywood's talking. Sorry, guys, hang on. I think also, sorry. Does it have something to do with also, hang on, hiding your position?
Well, like I said, that's why it hides the muzzle flash.
Well, I don't mean that. I mean, like, for instance, and I wasn't gonna get to muzzle brakes just yet, but the big shit that blows the dust out. Like, for instance,
oh yeah,
some of these flash hiders don't direct the gas downwards, and I'm actually honestly wondering, is that in part because when you're prone, that way it doesn't kick up dust and give away your position? That's what I was going to ask. I mean, that's what I meant to ask.
I think that's more of a secondary thing that they accomplish over more mitigating muzzle climb and flash. It's definitely a byproduct of the design, but I don't necessarily think that was the primary intention.
Now, as far as muzzle devices go, since we're sitting here in Ghost Recon, so basically, in Ghost Recon, there's and this is what I want to talk about. There's three kinds of muzzle devices. You got suppressors. We can talk about that. Compensators and muzzle brakes. Okay, so suppressors, compensators, muzzle brakes. None of them here are labeled flash hiders, which is what we were talking about. Now, from my experience, okay, Hollywood's experience is mechanical. Mine's just real world, just use. So ours are different. My experience, they all hide flash. In fact, somewhere I have a video clip, and if I can find it, I'll post it here, where I did a 2-mag dump of my AR at 4 a.m. in the morning. Don't worry, guys. I own my own property. I have my own firing range. Somewhere I have a clip of me doing a 2-mag dump at 4 a.m., and you can only barely see a spark. and that's because flash hider. That's what they do. They to my knowledge, they expel the gas. The goal is that this is why these things are between 1 and 2 inches long. They try to expel the gas slowly enough and over even enough space that it doesn't light up. Am I right or wrong, Hollywood?
That's the general science behind it. Put into layman's terms, is that they're just
I'm a layman if there ever was one. Dude, I'm a Marine. I'm a fucking jarhead. Okay. Now, in the game, we don't have muzzle devices labeled as flash hiders. In the game, what we have is compensators and muzzle brakes. Now, there's a big difference in my opinion. Okay, so here's my knowledge, and then you give me your actual real-world knowledge. I mean, okay, my knowledge is from actually firing them, but your knowledge is actually unfucking the shit that we fuck up. So this is going to be great. My knowledge, a compensator basically tries to just basically fix the recoil without being too... Okay, wait, I'm trying to put this in my words. What a compensator does is it tries to unfuck the recoil. Sorry, I'm using Marine Corps terminology here, guys. By directing the gas in such a way that it reduces the impact on your shoulder, whatever. Whereas a muzzle brake, which does it, to my knowledge, does the same thing, except it does it violently. Very violently. I say that because I've been hit personally. I've been hit in the face with shit fired out the side of a muzzle brake. Because a muzzle brake, for instance, I own a Dragunov, which has it's got a full-on muzzle brake. Full-on. Like if, you lay prone, you fire one shot, and you kick up a fucking field of dirt 6 foot high. It's got a full-on muzzle brake. What it does is it directs all the gas. Oh well, what does it kick up dirt? Well, I don't know. Search for me. I'm not a physicist. A muzzle brake. What it does, it has one directive, and all the slants are angled backwards, and that's to put all the gas upwards and backwards. That's why you don't want to stand next to one. I have stood next to one. I've gotten hit in the face with shrapnel from one. That's a different story. Whereas a compensator is a slightly lesser thing. Okay, I've spoken long enough. Hollywood, explain the difference. The real difference.
Okay, so a flash hider just eliminates flash. And now, we had talked about bird cages. The new modern bird cages, where the bottom is solid, is actually considered a compensator, because on top of eliminating flash, it helps compensate for muzzle climb. So compensators cover a wide variety of muzzle devices. Really, as long as the muzzle device is designed to compensate for muzzle climb or recoil, it's a compensator, even if it also does something else.
So that's why the game only has the two types.
Yeah, a muzzle brake, it's not B-R-E-A-K, like taking a break. It's putting on the brakes. B-R-A-K-E.
Yeah, it's B-R-A-K-E. Exactly. Yes. Sorry, go on.
Because the a muzzle brake's sole purpose is to reduce felt recoil and muzzle climb. That's why they have big, large ports on the 9 and 3 o'clock, and that's to push all of that gas away from the muzzle of the gun, so very little of it is actually coming out the direct front, so it isn't pushing back on you. Because of that, it creates a shitload of concussion.
And they're also much louder. I can attest to that as someone who owns what's not a sniper rifle? It's a DMR, which for those of you who don't know, a designated marksman rifle. I own it's a Romanian PSL. I call it a Dragunov because it's just fucking easier to say, but it's a Romanian PSL. It has a full-on muzzle brake, and I will say it's the loudest thing I've ever heard. Muzzle brakes are loud, right? Like full-on muzzle brakes are loud.
They're very, very loud.
They don't try to suppress sound. Their only goal, from my knowledge, I'm like totally getting into this because I have like some fascination with muzzle devices. The goal of a muzzle brake is specifically to push all the gases up and back to reduce recoil, because the things they put them on are fucking mean. What I'm saying is all my ARs have flash hiders of various kinds. It's only my sniper rifles that have the muzzle brakes. And well, if you guys have ever seen proper like Barrett 50 cal or whatever, you see like those big 3-pound pieces of steel they have on the end. The reason they have those, you know what I'm talking about. They look like an arrowhead. It's because they're pointing all the gas backwards and up to try to push the muzzle down and back into your shoulder to try to reduce the recoil. Much of you watching this video may not have ever fired a 50 caliber rifle. I will tell you personally, you can fit your pinky finger inside the empty shell casing of a 50 cal. That's how big that bullet is, and that's why they have those. When you go to the extreme, that's why. Now, okay, so anyway, let's move on.
Did you want to touch on suppressors?
Sure, yeah. As long as we're talking about muzzle devices, yeah. I know nothing about suppressors whatsoever because I never used one in the military. Okay, when I was in the Marines, I was a pogue. I was just a pogue. I just had an M682. I never fucking used one. And in my civilian life, the tax stamp and the background check and all that shit is just... actually, it's just too expensive. It's like a 6-month wait and like $800 stamp just to get one. So tell me about suppressors, dude.
Well, so suppressor basically works off the principle of capturing all of, or as much of the gas that exits the end of the muzzle as possible. So it's a cylinder with what we call a baffle stack inside of it, which is they're almost like washers.
It's like a muffler in a car. I mean, to us mechanics, like I'm a mechanic, it's like a muffler in a car. It has baffles to absorb. What it does is, I'm sorry to interrupt you. As soon as you said baffles, I thought of a car and the way a muffler works. It has baffles inside of it, and what it does is it absorbs the sound waves, reflects them back and forth, and they dissolve. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it also gives the suppressor chambers for all of that gas to expand into instead of exiting directly out the front of the muzzle.
Now, okay, as a consequence, no, honestly, we did not rehearse this question. Hand to God, we did not rehearse this question. This is just me as a mechanical person. So that would mean that, okay, so what you're going to get is you're going to get, hang on a second, let me think. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you guys because I love you guys. Hollywood and I rehearsed some of these questions. Well, of course I ran these questions by him, but not this one. So I'm guessing that I've never fired a suppressed weapon, not once in my life. I can't afford to own one, but and I don't feel the need for one personally. But I would guess that you're going to get more gas back at you. Also, is that true?
Yeah, it feeds a lot more gas back into the system. They make guns dirtier. That's why some charging handles are designed with that in mind. They have channels cut in them to vent the gas out the side so it doesn't come back and hit you in the face.
Now, also, I would imagine they probably get pretty fucking hot. And the reason I say that is because I know physics. As a mechanic, I know physics. You cannot create or destroy energy. Energy only changes forms. Thus, I would assume that because it redirects the gas, it's going to get fucking hot as hell.
Oh, yeah, you could probably cook a pound of bacon on a suppressor after a mag dump on full auto.
See, that's really interesting shit, and that's shit you're not going to find in this game. That's really interesting insight from someone who actually is an armorer. Well, I think it's interesting.
They actually get so bad to the point where a lot of guys wrap their suppressors, especially on sniper rifles, DMRs, things with scopes, because you know that mirage you see when you look at a hot parking lot?
Yeah.
It'll actually start doing that in front of your scope. So,
in your opinion, I've never fired a gun that had a suppressor, personally. But my understanding is they actually don't make them that much quieter. Maybe like 10 decibels quieter.
It's usually about 30 decibels quieter. Most of them are still not hearing protection safe, according to OSHA. Suppressors do a number of jobs besides reducing sound. They do reduce sound, but they're also a flash hider. They reduce more muzzle flash typically than a flash hider actually does.
Yeah.
So it's more a signature reduction device than it is exclusively just a quote unquote silencer.
Yeah, and the reason I asked that is because like you watch movies and shit, and it's like pew pew pew. But I know for a fact. Well, I may not have fired a silencer, but I've seen my share of them fired, even though I haven't fired one. It's not pew 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 zap zap zap. They make a really from my experience, they make like a muffled metal clank sound. It's still loud. It's still loud as fuck. It's still loud as balls. In fact, you got to be like 100. Okay, my experience, maybe 100 meters away, you notice the difference. But they make like, from my experience, well, I guess it depends on the can, but they make a really loud metal clank sound. I don't know. Just correct me. Feel free.
I mean, it's can to can. I usually describe it as like a pop and a psh kind of. It's Hollywood never really gets it right.
Yeah, they never
but
do.
Like to touch on the physics side of it, you have to understand bullets are supersonic for the most part. Some bullets aren't. Most bullets are, especially out of things like an AR or an AK.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
So when that bullet breaks the speed of sound, it's going to make a sonic boom.
I saw a video of a guy who actually tested suppressor sound at a range, and once you get past a certain range, because the bullet is supersonic, the suppressor has no effect because what you're hearing is the bullet breaking the sound barrier and not the crack of the gun. Is that right or wrong? I mean,
yeah. At distance, you really only hear the sound that the bullet makes when it breaks the sound barrier, and that's why, like I said, suppressors more than anything are just to mitigate signature, and they do make things a lot more bearable, especially inside buildings. If you've ever shot a gun inside a building, even with hearing protection, it's extremely loud, let alone 6 guys clearing a structure. So if they all have suppressors, it's much more manageable. Your hearing is something you want to protect as much as possible, so even if you're protecting your ears, making your gun quieter is a good thing. But that's why some bullets are designed in mind with being subsonic, like 300 Blackout. 300 Blackout is the bullet from a 7.62 by 51 round put inside the case of a 5.56 round.
No, I thought it was... Okay.
It's a 7.62 by 51 millimeter bullet. It's a full-size 308
so
round.
So it's a 308.
Inside of a 5.56 case. So
yeah,
you're shooting
because...
like a 220 grain projectile out of that little of a case, so it's subsonic. So when that bullet leaves the suppressor, it's never going to break the speed of sound. So they are almost Hollywood quiet.
Yeah, there's a lot of science there that we could go into. What do you think about... Hang on. Okay. As long as we're talking about Ghost Recon parts, things like that. Now, here's something I've heard from a lot of different... Okay, I've never been an operator, things like that, but since you work in association with many people like this, what is the most popular magazine that you see used? Like type of magazine? I mean, like GI mags, P mags, the billion different kinds of mags. I guess we'll mostly say aluminum versus polymer or whatever. What do you think?
Personally, I like the aluminum GI mags. I run the Magpul self-leveling followers in them. I don't think there's anything wrong with PMags. My big issue with PMags is incompatibility with certain mag pouches. Sometimes they don't play nice with Kinetic.
Okay.
They very often don't play nice when you double stack them because those base plates are bigger.
They're thicker because they're plastic instead of aluminum, so thus they have to be thicker. I get what you're saying. I mean, I own both. I own, for my ARs, I have a whole stack of magazines, and like every American does, and they're a mix of P mags and GI mags, and obviously plastic has to be thicker because it has to make up for the strength of aluminum, right? Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, I mean, they've got to make it rigid enough. I mean, they run them over and do all those crazy tests to them to show how strong they are. That takes material. I mean, if it was paper thin, they wouldn't be able to do that.
No, that said, I just want to add a point on there. I own several polymer weapons, including ARs. I do own a polymer AR as well as two polymer pistols. And actually, wait, well, it depends. But my father, my dad, he also owns a polymer AR I just want to put out there, they run just as well. All the important parts, the bolt carrier group, all that shit is still metal. It's just the outside is plastic. And I just want to put out there that polymer weapons, and they're becoming more and more and more prominent. And this is evident in the fact that LEAs and federal agencies are swapping to the Glock 19 and 6 Hours, which are polymer. Polymer weapons are totally relevant. What's your opinion on that?
Polymer frame pistols, definitely agree. Polymer lower ARs,
Oh,
I'm not
lower?
quite sold.
Oh, I've never run with a lower, but maybe. Okay.
Yeah, so polymer lower ARs are becoming more and more of a thing. We run them for sim guns that just shoot simunition exclusively, but some guys are actually building like running ARs out of them, which I definitely think is a horrible idea. But if you're totally okay with your AR cracking in half in your hands, by all means, go for it.
Um. Okay. I mean, personally, I've never seen a malfunction out of one. I mean, not like a serious one. Don't get me wrong. I've seen malfunctions that I don't want to go into because in the field, in the shit, and like in the sand and crap like that. I had my M16 malfunction in ways that I don't have the time to describe, and that thing was all freaking aluminum. And I've seen things. Oh well, aluminum and steel. And I've seen things malfunction in ways which Hollywood here, who is an armorer, I think I've told him all my stories. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. My best story, my worst malfunction. This one took me about 5 minutes to clear, and it really sucked because it was we're kind of moving in at the time. It really sucked. It was a double feed slash stovepipe. It was a round that stovepiped and then a double feed. And what happened was, that corrugated, not corrugated, but the lugs of the bolt actually locked into the brass of one round. And hang on a second. I'm sorry. It's so sorry. Sorry, I was smoking a cigarette. So the lugs of the bolt actually locked into the brass of the casing of one round, and when the bolt came back, it pulled up another round. So it was like a stovepipe double feed, basically. So I had two rounds, one round sticking out the side of my chamber, and one bullet in my chamber, which was unfit to fire. And at the time, I was in a firing maneuver trying to clear it. Now, I did clear it. This is why we carry pliers with us. Pliers and hammers and screwdrivers. This is why you carry tools with you, because weird shit like that happens. Hollywood, what's your opinion on weird fucking malfunctions like that?
I have. I mean, I don't like them. If that's what the opinion you're looking for, is someone who has to fucking
There we
unfuck
go.
people's shit.
It's
Yeah.
sad. Neither of us like them. Go ahead, sir.
I just, you hate to see it. We've seen some pretty fucking crazy stuff. I think one of my favorite stories is when we had some guys from a certain agency that I'm not going to name. We left three of them alone on the range by themselves, unattended, which was a horrible idea. They had a 45 UMP, and we came back. One of them was clamping down the trigger, running through mags on full auto. One of them was ripping out the old mags and putting in new mags, and the other guy was hitting the mag release, and they melted the front end of the UMP doing that in the 5 minutes we left them alone.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we could trade stories about that all day long. Like I've seen people with the saw. There's not there's okay. I'm never gonna exaggerate or like say shit I didn't do, but and no, I was never issued a saw, but there's always one guy in the squad in the fire team. There's always one guy in the fire team that has a saw. Well, not always, but like. Well, that's why I call it a squad automatic weapon, because there's always one guy who has one. So what I'm saying is I've seen a saw. Okay, here's the thing. For you guys who don't know, okay, so the M249 Saw, I'm not exactly sure on the manufacturing. If I'm not mistaken, it's
Van Herschel.
Korean or something like that.
FN Herstal makes it.
Wait, who makes it?
FN.
Oh, FN makes it, so it's Belgian. I didn't know that.
Yep.
Okay, okay. Like I said, I fired the shit. I didn't know who made it. Not that was not my business. But the thing about the Saw and the great thing about it, again, for those of you who don't know, Saw stands for Squad Automatic Weapon. So there's like one guy in your fire team who has one. I was not the guy. I was not the guy. I'm not. I was not infantry. I was in no one pogue. Anyway, the point is, I've seen them used to the point. Now, here's the thing about the Saw. Unlike other, okay, so it's considered an LMG, it's a light machine gun. I forget what the fuck it's considered as in Ghost Recon, but in real life, it's a light machine gun. But one thing that differs it from a lot of other LMGs, and Hollywood's going to be nodding right here, does not have an interchangeable barrel. One thing that distinguishes it is the barrel is not interchangeable. You can't swap it out. Now, one thing that makes it good, before he talks, is its versatility. You can take an M16 mag and insert it in. You can load it round by round or put in an M16 mag or a drum or a belt. It'll take anything. It'll just eat up 5.56 ammo all day long, no matter which way you put it in. But I've seen them get so hot. I once saw a Saw get so, the barrel got so, because there's no way to change the barrel out. It was beyond white hot. It was so white hot, you could actually see the bullets going through it. Hollywood, your thoughts?
I would probably edit that out because you can quick change the barrel on a saw.
What? How? Not that I know. There's no handle on it. Like the M240 Golf had a handle on it.
There's a paddle on the front of the receiver that you hit that pops the barrel out.
Okay. I'm actually going to leave that in because you're correcting me, and I love being corrected. Well,
Yeah, it's
if there
the
was,
saw has quick change barrels.
okay. Well, if there was in 1999. I mean, like,
Then maybe
yeah.
then they didn't, but they most definitely do now.
Okay. Also, I'm a Marine, so I'm a jarhead, so I'm stupid. So, okay. Either way, yeah, I've seen them get fired so much. They got so red hot, they got white hot, and they went beyond white hot, and you could see the bullets shooting through them, and that's pretty fucking scary. That's like almost. I've never seen a rifle catch on fire, but that's on the borderline of catching on fire is getting that hot. We're talking. Actually, you'd be surprised because okay, well that's a 5.56 rifle. Okay, so that's only a 5.56, the M249. But as far as 7.62 rifles, you'd be surprised how few rounds it takes to get it smoking hot. Like, for instance, I own a Dragunov. Fires a 7.62 by 5.4, which is the basic equivalent to an American 308. Now, I've done 2 3 mag dumps through that thing, and I will tell you, the thing, it's a DMR. It's a DMR, and it gets so goddamn smoking hot. I remember one time I got it so smoking hot, literally. Well, of course, it had, smoke rolling off of it. When I went to sling it on my back, I was actually hesitant to sling it back on my back. I was firing in my backyard. I have a firing range set up in my backyard. I was actually hesitant to re-sling it and walk back up the hill because I was afraid. Well, I was wearing old school military gear. It's not going to catch on fire, but I was actually afraid that it was going to like do that thing where it blackens it and burns it. I mean, like, any thoughts?
Specific thoughts on what exactly?
Okay. No big deal. I guess I went off on a tangent. Okay, no big deal. What's your thoughts on, okay, so we've been talking a lot about military rifles, but okay, well, I'm holding an AK-47 right now. This is a bad example. I was holding an Lvoa, and he's holding what looks to me to be an M249. No. That's not M249. That's a Mark 48. Yeah, I was just going to say, because he's got the barrel change handle on it. Anyway, not the point. Point is, what's your point? Okay. So military has certain specs that are required in rifles. Like they require certain amounts of safety measures and pull strings on triggers and mil spec. They call it mil spec. And it's also in buffer tubes, barrels, you name it, it's there as far as I know. But the civilian market, because I guess we're largely talking about the AR-15, because it's simply the weapon platform I'm most familiar with, and it's the one we use in the U.S. and actually in most countries. Most countries, special ops at some level do use the AR-15 platform. I know some people say, "Oh, it's not AR-15, it's M4." Yeah, fuck off. It's an AR-15. Fuck you. I'm so sick of that argument. By the way, also, maybe that's a side topic. I'm so sick of that argument. It's a goddamn fucking AR-15. Shut the fuck up. I'm sick of that. Dude, really, that argument pisses me off. People say, "Oh, that's an M4." Okay, wait. Okay, let's stop and talk about that. Hollywood, because I honestly don't know. Hollywood, what's your thought on that argument?
Uh, I always just settle it by saying whatever your lower receiver says is what it is. So,
Okay, fair enough.
Colt has made some civilian lowers that say M4. Call it an M4, call it an M4.
I mean, that is true. In fact, the local gun store just down the street from me, last time I was there, just a couple weeks ago, they had a Colt M4. It was $3,000, of course, and I can't afford that because, yeah, that shit's expensive. But it's not necessarily better because it's all mil spec. It was a Colt M4, legit head to toe Colt M4. It was $3,000. And here's kind of what I was getting to is I was going to ask Hollywood what his favorite manufacturer is. And the reason I was going to ask that is because you can pay $3,000, like I just said, for a Colt M4, which is all mil spec with like a 6-pound trigger and all mil spec shit. Or you can drop maybe 2/3 or even half that. We'll say 2/3. I'm going to estimate on like Noveski, Daniel Defense, and things like that, and get 10 times better weapons. What's your opinion?
Well, you're definitely not gonna like my favorite manufacturer as far as price point because I'm a big fan of Knight's Armament and
Oh, Knight's Armament.
yeah, their shit is expensive.
Well, that's
Now
because. Well, yeah, but that's like a big. Well, okay, come on. Sorry, I'll just let you talk.
uh, as far as direct impingement guns are concerned, Knight's pretty much has it mastered. Their proprietary gas systems are amazing. Their
But
rounded
they come
bolt lug,
directly
double.
from fucking. Sorry to interrupt, kind of. But they come directly from. Oh my god. Damn, I forgot his name. What's his face? The AR-15. Well, obviously, it's named after it.
Eugene Stoner.
Stoner, thank you. I mean, what I mean is, Knight's Armament. At least I connect it directly with Eugene Stoner, because that's what the. I'll just stop there. I'll just shut up. I'm retarded. Go ahead.
No, I mean you're not wrong. Yeah, they've got some of the original patents. Trey and Reed Knight there have an amazing collection of guns. Some of the early prototypes, like serial numbers 1, 2, and 3. Um, but their gas system, the proprietary gas system, is really nice. The rounded bolt lugs, the double spring extractors. I really like their guns. They make good stuff. It's a shame that they've kind of almost become like HK, and because their stuff is expensive, that people consider
Proprietary, I
them.
think, is the word. That's what I
Well,
think of.
it's not necessarily expensive because it's proprietary. It does go into it, but they almost have like a cult following now. There's nice armament fanboys, so they kind of get a bad rap, and it's a little unfortunate because they do make good stuff.
Okay, so there's one last question I had with you, Hollywood, and this really doesn't have anything to do with with the game, but this is something that does, I think, to my knowledge, to my experience, applies in real life. And this is weird. It's about slings, and it's sling length versus armor. Now, before you answer, I know because I used to, I did the same thing myself, at least from my experience, and correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, just give me a sec though. Most military guys, what we do is we get the sling to the correct length and then we duct tape it off. Duct tape, Gorilla tape, whatever the fuck. We tape it off. We get the sling to the right length and we tape it. Every piece of military gear I've owned, used, or bought has had duct tape wrapped around everything, and that's because we get everything to the length we want it and we tape it off. And the reason I'm asked that, just to extend the question, is, like for instance, right now my character is wearing a plate carrier. So, does this character set his sling length for his armor or for when he's on, wearing a jacket?
Military personnel, I would definitely say set it for your armor. Me as a civilian, I set mine for no armor because I know that I have enough adjustment room in it that I can, if I had to put armor on for something, I could just throw it as loose as possible, pull armor on, pull the sling back on, and it's fine.
The answer is simply pay good money on a sling. There's no shame in paying over $100 on a sling. There's a reason the rifles cost several thousands of dollars. There's a reason. Okay, there's a reason you pay $500 to $800 for a proper optic. Like I can go to Walmart and get a $40, 8 magnification optic. Yeah, but you know what? It could break if you drop it because the glass is made of shit. There's a reason that military optics like Trigicons and things like that cost $700-800. There's a reason, dude. And it's the same thing with slings. There's a reason that you can get a $10 sling from Walmart. Nothing against Walmart. I'm just saying because I live in America. That's where we go. That's where we buy shit. I can buy a sling for $10 there, and I have a few of them. But you can also pay $100 for a sling, and you get what you pay for. And when it comes to defending your life, bet your fucking ass that matters. Hollywood, your thoughts on that?
I mean, as far as getting what you pay for, it's definitely a thing. We kind of live in this society now where people almost point and make fun of people that spend good money on stuff. And I'm not defending the guys that go and buy a $5,000 AR and buy $10,000 worth of kit and don't have any training. That's stupid. But
no, training.
the guys
Training. Yeah.
Yeah, but for the guys that do have training, if they spring to buy themselves a nice AR, they go out and buy a brand new Knights SR-15. They're not doing it to flex. There's no shame in buying good equipment. There's no shame in buying good nylon. There's no shame in buying a good helmet or a good gas mask or anything like that. Just make sure you have the training to use what you're paying good money for.
Yes. I mean, I want to say two things before we close out here. One thing is there is a difference between a $10 sling and a $100 sling. There's a huge difference. It's the same thing with toilet paper. Well, yeah, honestly, I mean, like that's a weird comparison, but I can go to the gas station and I can buy 4 rolls of toilet paper for $2, or I can go buy Charmin. Which is better to wipe your ass with? Okay, fair enough. You already answered that question because the answer is obvious. Now, let's look at rifle slings. Which is better to save your life with? Thank you. Yeah, so you can buy $10 slings. You can buy $100 slings. I guess we need to sign this video off. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I tried and I outlined these questions to address every part on every rifle that we could in Wildlands or in Ghost Recon in general. And I'm talking to an actual expert who does this as a profession. I just want to reinforce Hollywood is an armorer by profession and works in whatever capacities. It's not my business. He works in whatever capacities with certain people who work for certain agencies and such like that. And I hope I'm not incorrect in saying that. Things like this are very important. And one thing I think I want to stress, we've both stressed this a few times, and goddamn, I guess I'm going to channel fucking Grand Thumb again. Training. Which right now in these troubled days of coronavirus, I know is hard because ammo is like twice the price it was before. Trust me, I know. Ammo is fucking expensive, but training. Hollywood, do you have any closing statements? Your turn. You got about, I'll give you 2 whatever minutes on the mic, dude, because I know you got to go.
I mean, I would just back up again. There's no shame in buying good kit. Just training first. Get yourself plenty of ammo so you can practice when this fucking craziness is over. And besides that, do your research. Try to use good articles. Don't necessarily listen to random people on message boards about stuff. There's a lot of misinformation about guns, and fixing issues and what causes issues. Definitely read multiple articles, try to find good ones. Find a good gunsmith somewhere that you can trust. It's just like finding a good mechanic. We talked about that earlier, how we're both kind of mechanics. You want to find someone good that you can trust with your stuff. And just, if you're thinking about getting into shooting, or you're already into shooting and you're thinking about getting more into it, it's not necessarily the best time right now, but I definitely would. It's very fun. Hunting, competition, whatever you want to do, whatever capacity, it's a great hobby. And video games like this, I definitely hope are getting younger people into the world of firearms, and less or so into gear, but gear's cool too.
Yeah, thank you, man. And I agree. Hollywood's got to go here in a little bit. It's getting kind of late here where we're at. Well, he's a couple hours ahead of me. It's definitely late for him. Hollywood, you're thank you for being here. Thank you so much for being here. We've planned this for months. I've planned to have a talk with him for months. He's a guy I've known for a couple of years. Great guy. Again, we mentioned his, he knows. Yeah. We've already gone through that. Thank you for being here so much, dude. And I would salute you if there was a button. There's probably some emote, but I don't use emotes. There's probably some fucking emote I don't know how to use, but
I would be more offended if you knew how to use the emotes.
There's probably some bullshit emote here, but I know how to actually salute, so I'm going to give you a real world salute off camera. I salute you, sir. Even though you're not military, salute. Dude, have a good night. Thank you for being with us so much. Yeah, I don't know how to use emotes in this game. I just run and shoot shit, whatever. Thank you for being with us and bringing it, dude. You so much insight into what actually goes into rifles, and hopefully we can bring awareness to people. There's a lot of people I think in the world who think rifles are bad things. They're not. In fact, these things are what keep freedom free. Maybe that's just an American perspective, but this is what keeps people from being oppressed. In my opinion, yeah. Every country in history has won their freedom by fighting against oppressors, and that's all we're talking about. We're not talking about anything violent. Thank you so much for being here. Sorry.
Man, anytime.
Yeah, I kind of had to. Hollywood and I have been talking about this. Okay, Hollywood, dude, I'm going to let you go because I know it is currently like midnight your time, something like that, or 1 a.m. And
yeah,
he's got
midnight.
Yeah, okay. You got a wife and kids and shit like that. Dude, you have a good night. I'm going to go ahead and sign the video off without you. I'll let you go right now. I'll send
All right.
Everyone, thanks for joining. Thanks for watching Hollywood. Right, so okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to edit this out. I'm going to keep this here. No, he's still there. It's okay. I'm just going to talk myself. I'll sign this off. Hollywood is a guy I've known for a long time, and he knows his shit better than I do. Like I said, I was just the guy who, I was the guy who used the weapons and turned them into the armory, and then he's the guy who works at the armory. I mean, to my understanding, who then unfucks them and brings them back because we don't know how to properly maintain them. Because guys like this they're the guys who are behind the scenes who deserve a lot of credit. Guys, thanks so much for watching. I'm Dark Dally. I was with Hollywood. He's still in the background. Oh, he was. Okay, never mind. He's gone. All right. Or whatever. Right. So, guys, this video was, I shit you not scripted. And it was very long. I apologize for that. But bringing real world awareness. Okay, here's the way I see it. Okay, I'm a little bit older than a lot of people. Some people, it's cool. And I see younger kids who want, in fact, I've encouraged some kids to join the military, and I think everyone should. It was the best experience of my life. Games like this are bringing a younger generation into a life which is, especially with today's politics and, whatever, kind of frowned upon, but it's necessary. It always has been and it always will be. And don't take that as political commentary, but this style of life is always necessary. Hollywood himself never served in the military, but guess what? He works every single day full time serving military and LEA. People like me used to be in the military and depended on people like him to maintain our rifles. So there's that. There's really nothing more I can say than repeat myself. Guys, thanks so much for watching. I really hope, I really do, because I put a lot of thought and work into this, and we really did, both me and Hollywood. Guys, please. I never ask this. Give a like, give a subscribe, and give whatever in the description, in the comments below. Really do, because we spent hours out of our day to bring this to you, and we think it's really important, because I think it really is. I'm Dark Dally, and I think, wait, Hollywood, are you still here? Can you say goodbye?
Yeah, guys, it was great being here. Looking forward to doing more stuff with Dally if he'll have me back. And I'll catch you guys next time.
Yeah, I'll catch you guys next time.